In this video, we are going to look at how to work out coordinates. Some books will refer to this as grid referencing, otherwise coordinates, same thing, that we're going to be looking at degrees, minutes, seconds. So here we go. The first thing we're going to look at is a much more basic concept. So we're kind of throwing ourselves back to way back when, where we are looking at the equator being 0 degrees, and as we move away from the equator, our degree value is going to increase, because at the south pole it's 90 degrees. So as we move from the equator to the pole, it's going to increase. If we head north, it's going to do the same thing. It's going to increase its value up to the 90 degree north as opposed to 90 degrees south. So as South Africa, we are always in the southern hemisphere, which means that if we're looking at a map and we're moving down, so we're moving south, our degrees are going to increase, our minutes are going to increase, and our seconds are going to increase as well as we move south. Okay. Then, in a similar vein, if we look at our lines of longitude, okay, let's remember the longitude's like a segment of an orange. Greenwich meridian is at 0 degrees. If you head off to the west, then the degree value is going to increase. And if you move over towards the east, it's also going to increase. Okay, and where do we find South Africa? Right, South Africa is in the eastern hemisphere. Alright, so if we find ourselves there, okay, in the east and the south, in terms of our eastern hemisphere, if we are moving from the west towards the east, our degree value is going to increase. Our minutes are also going to increase. Our seconds are going to increase because we are moving away from Greenwich meridian. Okay, so we are in the southern hemisphere and the eastern hemisphere, and that is going to apply to all maps that we work with. So we are going to work with this map of Brits. Okay, and let's just fold it over so it's a little bit smaller. There is my question. Calculate the coordinates of trig beacon 92 in C3. So this is where the trig beacon is. Okay, we're going from the center of the symbol. Now when you're lining up your ruler, use things around you to help guide the directness of your measurement. So if I'm looking there, I'm using the grid lines to make sure that I am going completely straight off to the side. Okay, you could rule it the whole way from the trig beacon. I tend to just rule it on that minute kind of bar. Same thing over here. I'm lining up my numbers on the ruler with one of the grid lines because that just happens to work for this one. So look at what's around when you're doing this, so that you can get those as accurate as possible. Okay, so we're going to start with the south, because in terms of our cardinal points, north-south always more important than east-west. So we have 25 degrees, then we've got our minutes written in on the side, and we're going to count down so that we have 37 minutes. And then now we need to measure the seconds. So we're going to take our ruler and we are going to measure it by hand and see how many millimeters we have here. And the reason that we're going to do this every single time is because particularly with our lines of longitude, so when we're measuring our east, remember the lines of longitude don't run parallel to one another. That means that the space of a square degree isn't necessarily the same. So it could be narrow, it could be wider, depending. So the closer to the equator you get, the wider that square degree is. So I've divided this in half. So I've got 0, 30, and then it would be 60 seconds. And I'm going to divide the first half, which is the only relevant one, into quarters. So that is 15 seconds, and happily that coincidentally landed up exactly on that line that I drew from the trig beacon. So 15 seconds south. Make sure you put in the south, and when it comes to the east, put in the east, otherwise you will not get that mark. Okay, so let's go and have a look at our east measurements. So first thing we can do straight away is we can look for that degree. So we have 27 degrees. Okay, then we're going to have a look at our minutes. Okay, 1, 2, 3, and that's going to be 48 minutes. And now we're going to sit and work out our seconds. So let's get the ruler, and we're going to measure that minute. Okay, so we take our ruler, we measure the minute, and down to the millimeter as accurately as you possibly can, and divide that minute in half. Okay, so I'm working with millimeters, and I will find my 30 second mark. Okay, and remember that anything to the left of that 30-second mark is going to be smaller, anything to the right is going to be bigger, because we are moving away from Greenwich meridian. Okay, so I've got my halfway mark. I'm now going to divide it into quarters. Okay, I'm only going to bother with the side that's relevant, so I've got my 15-second mark. Okay, so it's really close, but it's not on the 15 seconds. So what I do, usually by hand here, is that I divide this into thirds if it's a little bit close. So I've got 15, 20, 25, and 30. So now between that 15 and that 20, I can try and get as accurate as possible to get the correct seconds measurement. So in this instance, I'm going to say it's about 17 seconds east. Alright, so that is our final answer in terms of the coordinates based on that question. Clean the map. Always clean the map. Okay, it's geography etiquette. If you've used a map and you've used pencil on the map, never touch it with a pen, you clean it. So that is how you calculate your coordinates. Okay, remember that accuracy is key. Make sure that your ruler is lined up straight, because that's often where problems start, is that if you measure it slightly skew, it's going to throw out your entire seconds measurement, and then it's not going to work. Okay, so accuracy is key. Remember, if you're measuring for south, if you go down, the numbers go up. If you're measuring for east, if you are moving towards the east, your numbers are increasing as you move away from Greenwich. Okay, so questions, comment below, like, share, subscribe, and I'll see you for more map work soon.